Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, sitting down to talk about Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. I've been playing it for a number of days now. Shout out to CD Projekt Red for providing the early review code. And alongside that, I've been playing the update 2.0 and I have some thoughts. Now for a little bit of backstory, when I first reviewed Cyberpunk 2077, I said it was one of the best RPGs of the generation. And a lot of people wanted me to walk back that statement, and time over time I've said, nope, I still believe it to this day. And even with all those updates that have come in since then, I feel like Cyberpunk has really delivered what I'm looking for. I think it's one of the most fun RPGs you can play. I think the storytelling and the buildup of tension has always been excellent. I was just disappointed in the choice and consequence. So could Phantom Liberty answer some of my problems with the game? And is it more Cyberpunk or something far beyond that? I'm happy to answer all of that here today. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor. The following video is sponsored by Harry's. For all you hockey players out there, you'll get this one, but you always get nicknames, and there's a big thing around hockey beards. I, struggled to grow a lot of facial hair, so I was envious of my teammates in college who had great facial hair. And we had this running joke that my nickname was Dusty because I couldn't grow any facial hair, and therefore it looked like I had dust on my lip. However, the tides have turned. Now I got a little something going on here, and I need a partner like Harry's to help me take care of the goatee and the stash. So let's talk about it, shall we? Harry's manages to combine quality and affordability, puts them right together. The way they do this is by manufacturing their own blades, which they've done in a factory in Germany for 100 years now. What this allows them to do is charge you a fair price for your blades because that's the right thing to do. Harry's has helped me in particular underneath, around the neck here and in between these little spots here. And with Harry's, it's a nice clean shave. I don't get any reactions from the shaving cream, which is another big deal for me. And I walk away smoother than ever, just getting in the right areas and feeling great after a shave. And what I'm holding here is a starter set for Harry's, and by using my link in the description down below, you can go ahead and try out the Harry's trial set for just $5. That's $13 in value for just $5. Get yourself a good shave with Harry's, link down below. Shout out to Harry's for sponsoring today's video. Just a bit of a note, something I'm not pleased about at all, by the way, and I just have to be open about it. I can't use my gameplay. I have to use screenshots, and then when the expansion comes out, I can use gameplay. So if you're wondering why this is going to be loaded up with screenshots, I just want to give you the information. I apologize on behalf of CD Projekt Red because I think it's kind of ridiculous. Like we made this same mistake once. I can say, as I'm playing here on my 3080 i9 quad core, I'm doing just fine performance-wise, but everyone's PCs are different, so I'm not crazy about that being hidden. I don't know if this has been bad for other people. I haven't spoken to any other reviewers, so I'm kind of in this little chamber here as I talk about it. So just a heads up, do your research on performance. Mine was solid, but yeah, I can't show any gameplay, but I can show screenshots of the gameplay I captured. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin. So for those who don't know, Phantom Liberty brings you to a whole new area in Night City called Dogtown. It's this lawless area run by gangs and criminals, and there's this man, Kurt Hansen, who's at the top of it all. Now, what Cyberpunk 2077's Phantom Liberty has been promoted as is a spy espionage expansion. And it takes a little bit, I feel, to get to that level where you're doing real spy things like crawling through parties and questioning people about what's going on. But there's no denying that I think it eventually delivers on all of that. What I appreciate about Phantom Liberty is it does take its time to build up. It's not quite like how I at least viewed Cyberpunk 2077, where I feel like that prologue was really rip-roaring. I enjoyed the heck out of that as a story setup. But with Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty, I think there was a different set of writers on it. I'll talk about a specific reason why. But it feels a little more like, let's start slow and steady and start gradually building towards something. So what you find yourself in is a situation where you must work with the NUSA president in order to protect her because there has been a threat on her life. And obviously mixed in politics is a lot of motivations that are hidden from particular characters. So you never know quite who to trust. And that's what kept me on the edge of my seat for the most part. But overall, what stood out to me with the writing in this expansion is it's not necessarily a drop in quality per se, but certain characters like V speak differently, almost as if they took the Witcher team of writers and put them on this expansion. I say that because V very frequently, and I just can't get out of my head, will say things like, it's funny that X person is dead. could be. It's always like subject and then modify. It's really a weird form of writing that you see in more medieval style games. Like, it's funny that, you know, I just couldn't get it out of my head as I was paying attention to it more and more, where it felt like whoever wrote V for this expansion, maybe I'm wrong, but it felt like a different type of V, which I wasn't crazy about. Now, the reason you get wrapped up in all of this is because V's life is being threatened by the Relic. So she is personally motivated to go to all lengths to help out whoever is going to secure her own future. So I feel like the story does a good job of building up the other characters around you. We'll talk about Solomon Reed in a second, while making sure it makes sense why you're in this in the first place. Because there are definitely many moments you're going to do some crazy operations and think, why am I doing? Oh, right. I want to survive, right? I'm doing this because I want to live at the end of the day. The big celebrity this time for Cyberpunk 2077 is Idris Elba, who is playing as Solomon Reed. He killed it, man. I think he killed it. I love this character, unapologetically so. A really deep, rich backstory focused on loyalty, and his performance just, he fits, man. Like, someone had a vision when they were thinking of this character, and he just fits. It's a lot like Keanu Reeves, where Keanu Reeves just fits as Johnny Silverhand. And make no mistake, I imagine the budget for this expansion is pretty big, because not only do they have Solomon Reed in here a lot, they have Johnny Silverhand talking to you a ton, reflecting on things, lots of side quests, all that fun stuff. I mean, it's more Cyberpunk in a good way. I think I like the main story of Cyberpunk more than Phantom Liberty, but the way this builds up with the political tension, oh, it gets really good, really good. But perhaps what I loved more with my time with Cyberpunk again, as it's been some time since I've really sat down for many hours of the game, the update 2.0. So there have been a ton of changes that have been put out for Cyberpunk 2077. One of my favorites, if not my actual favorite, is the focus on cyberware. So back in original Cyberpunk 2077, you'd play it like any other RPG. Hey, there is clothing. I'm going to put it on. I'm going to look a little silly until they eventually added transmog, and those are going to be my stats. Now they've completely changed it up to be more in line with, if you've watched Edge Runners, you will see that it's much like that, where it's a focus on cyberware. All of your upgrades come from everything you're putting in your body. But just like you saw in Edge Runners, there's a limit to how much your body can take in. And so as you're adding these augmentations in, it's kind of like a give and take. Like, oh, that's really powerful, but man, that really racks it up closer to putting me into danger. And you can go beyond that if you want, but you're going to suffer because of it. And it's, again, such a great play on what Cyberpunk has always been, but also as someone who's watched Edge Runners, you see a lot of that leaking back into Cyberpunk in the way you build your character. This RAM upgrade that I have here is attuned to my intelligence, and it increases all damage dealt per attribute point by 0.05. But if I have a lot of points invested in intelligence, then it's going to only scale more so. So you have to really think about your cyberware builds even more. It just all fits together to not only match the theme of the entire game, but on top of that, it also just makes it a better leveling system. So build crafts I thought were already amazing in Cyberpunk. They got even better. And that's because the gameplay was already fantastic, but they've even overhauled how progression works. I would say it's more akin to Skyrim now, but with more deep builds. So it's like the best of both worlds. So think of Skyrim. You know how you go ahead, you level up by doing things like using your one-handed sword is going to give you more one-handed skills, right? Same thing here. If I shoot someone in the head a bunch of times, my headhunter skill is going to go up. If I use quick hacks a ton, I'm going to get XP for net running. And what's going to happen is as you gradually do this over and over, you're going to earn perk points that you can then spend on the brand new perk trees. And this whole set of trees has been completely overhauled, where you can now really diversify your builds. If I were to make it akin to anything, I'd say Borderlands. Borderlands always had those 3 skill trees, and you'd swap between them and make a very unique build where it would be the same character but a different play style for so many different people. And Cyberpunk really leans into that. I mean, I was still playing my quick hacking, tech weapons focused build, but it felt completely brand new. That's because when you used to use quick hacks in the base game, it was really broken. You could just kill people from afar. It was like Watch Dogs. It was really cool. But now when you start using quick hacks, you'll up the amount that you can be traced by people in the net. So it's not necessarily this win-all type of build. There's much more risk now. You have to calculate when you want to detonate the grenade in someone's pocket, when you want to wipe their vision away, and so on and so forth. And once you start using quick hacks, it's almost like a timer kicks off. And then amidst all of the reworked perks, all of the reworked skill trees, you have a brand new one called Relic, which we've seen flickering on and off after a couple of patches from Cyberpunk 2077. Now it's active, and this gives you all brand new abilities to use in combat. One such example you'll see in some of the gameplay screenshots I gotta use here is a little diamond forming around certain body parts of enemies. That's actually one of my Relic abilities, and as I'm targeting a particular enemy, I can shoot this weak spot and it'll do a minor EMP blast and affect all nearby enemies. There are other ones that augment the mono wire, the mantis blades, again, deepening the builds that you'll find here in Cyberpunk 2077, and it's hard to imagine the game without any of this. A big thing that I noticed in the Phantom Liberty content, when I was exploring Dogtown, completing missions, gigs, what have you, there was a focus on environmental skill checks. I always thought that Cyberpunk 2077 had fantastic level design, but one thing I noticed when crawling around all the various buildings that CD Projekt Red had created was sometimes I'd be able to do a bit of a strength check to open up a doorway, or using my engineering to disable a mine that was on a wall, and so on and so on. It rewarded my build beyond the shooty looty and more in the terms of finding new pathways around levels. Now, not every mission is going to be sprawling, but these added options as you're exploring do make, if you will, Cyberpunk's, I'm going to call them dungeons, far more appealing, far more replayable. So it was just an added bonus to people who are looking for more role-playing in Cyberpunk, just like how it's always been. The focus for role-playing in Cyberpunk is on that gameplay and less on the story choice and consequences, just like the base game. There's a real focus on cyberware and connecting with the things that have built this universe. So absolutely fantastic job on that front. The progression feels brand new. It's addicting. It's fun. It's satisfying. And then when you throw in just some of the best level design you can find in the open world, and this is a little bit of reaction type reviewing here, so I apologize, but it's important you're aware of it. Coming off of Starfield, I didn't think the level design was fantastic in approachability. Like, stealth gameplay was usually shoot from the perimeter and then eventually go in. There wasn't like Cyberpunk's crawling through vents, zipping through cameras, hacking things, detonating grenades. It's this beautiful mixture of first-person stealth and watchdogs that just lights my fire, man. And it's still here. It's still great. Because on top of what you get in Phantom Liberty in a main story, they add new gigs. There is a weird moment of pacing in the story where they make you do a bunch of gigs in order to progress, which I thought was a little bit weird here. It kind of felt like padding because I like that there's optional stuff there. Dogtown as a region isn't my favorite in Night City. It is pretty densely packed with lots of unique side quests, but you're really going to mostly be there for the main story. But make no mistake, with everything they added in the 2.0 update, on top of all that's in Phantom Liberty, it's going to make you want to replay this game through and through. That's not even getting into things people have been begging for. I tested out the police system to see, hey, is it fixed now? And yes, as your wanted level goes up, more and more cops are going to show up. Eventually, Max Tac is going to show up. They're going to beat down your door. They're going to kill you. You're going to have no chance. You can escape from the cops. They don't just spawn behind you anymore. It is much, much improved, like I think how people wanted it at launch. And speaking of which, when you're trying to drive away from the police, yeah, there is car combat now. And it's also great because they add car quick hacks. So I can activate the emergency brakes on someone's vehicle and just stop them dead in their tracks when they're chasing me. I can activate a floor it, so I can have a car run over a group of enemies. When I was testing out the police system, I gave that a try. I just narrowly missed, but the idea was in my head. You can make a car blow up. Again, it just brings all of that flexibility and gameplay options that you had on foot into a vehicle now. It's awesome. And there's some James Bond moments where you get really cool cars that have special abilities I won't spoil for you. That's a big part of the content here, is car collecting. I mean, look, I think they really knocked it out of the park here. I was already I imagine some people will call me a Cyberpunk sympathizer, but I already love this game. So giving me more of that is great. Overhauling it and addressing some of the key issues with it, I think, is fantastic. It's made me love it even more. It's an even easier recommendation. And then you add in another set of great characters. It's $30. It reminds me so much of what people are talking about with Blood and Wine, with The Witcher 3, where it's like, wow, I get all of this, a lot of it for free. And even then you get Phantom Liberty on top of it. It feels like that over delivery of value that we've come to know and love from CD Projekt Red, like a back to roots type moment for them. What I'll also say is, while I really liked Phantom Liberty, it's definitely worth your time. I was more impressed with the 2.0 update, truly. Like, I thought that really spoke to me more. That's what drove me more. The storytelling and everything that they've added in Phantom Liberty is fantastic. Don't get it twisted. But that 2.0 update will make you want to replay the game. And I know it's a tough time. It's a tough time right now where we got a lot of great stuff coming out. You're going to want to bounce around. So I would warn you, if you're going to fire this up, I'm not saying you have to start with a brand new save, but you may get that itch, you may get that bug. And if so, make sure your schedule is clear. That's all. But yeah, I really, really dug Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. I thought from top to bottom, everything they packed in here really just reignited my love for this series. And it makes me so excited for what they can do with the sequel. Just, oh man, it's so good to be back. My big worry, of course, is, we couldn't capture our own gameplay. Hopefully the performance is okay. We'll see. But ladies and gentlemen, what I played ran fine. It was an absolute blast. And I just can't wait to see people get back into Cyberpunk. It's a really, really good time to be an RPG fan right now between Baldur's Gate 3, Starfield, and Cyberpunk. They're all delivering on every single level. It's such a good time. So I'm looking forward to seeing your thoughts on Phantom Liberty and the 2.0 update down below. Fire away with that. Take excellent care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below, and a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the heck out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.